Thanks for joining in. We've had a really good response this week, so that makes me happy. I hope you've all had a good week. I think we're starting to see the lift in our restrictions, which is good, especially with Mother's Day coming up this weekend. It'll be nice to actually see a few people and, you know, have some special time. So I hope you've all got some plans. So anyway, I'll get straight into the questions because I know that we're all busy. So here's the first one, and it's from Robin. So she's had her surgery in October last year and has lost 30 kilograms, which is fantastic. However, just not feeling full or even satisfied after a meal. Following a plan and also just feeling that using the portion plates and also all of her willpower. So drinking enough water, looking like you're doing all the right things, but still feeling hungry. And I think sometimes we're given the impression that the surgery will be the magic bullet as far as hunger goes. It can be a few different things. I can't really decipher exactly what might be happening, but I can give you a list of things you might explore. And the first one would be protein, generally making sure that you're getting your protein in first, making sure you're not drinking around that meal time for sort of 30 or 40 minutes before and after. So you're keeping that food and the protein in that little pouch that'll help to make you feel satisfied. The other part of it could be that the hunger hormones are not as greatly affected in your case, maybe, I'm just guessing. So the surgery is said to interfere with ghrelin and leptin, and the ghrelin hormone is what gives you that desire to eat and that never really feeling satisfied. So before surgery, so many of the obesity patients suffer from this ghrelin imbalance. And we call it the hunger hormone because it's actually, its job is to send the hunger signal to the brain. So food going in generally should stimulate the release of this hormone, and it sends the message to the brain that there's food in your tummy and you don't need any more. And often in obesity patients prior to surgery, that's out of balance. So a lot of the obesity picture is quite an endocrine or hormonal situation where insulin, leptin, ghrelin, and another hormone called adiponectin are working against our better health. So that may be something that you could explore and just ask the question of how you might see if you've still got that ghrelin situation going on. There's also a thinking around the surgery that you shouldn't be hungry, but hunger is also an indicator of using the energy from your food as well. So it could just be also that you're expecting not to be hungry and you are actually experiencing that. So those small regular meals and really good quality protein snacks will be something that you'd explore. The other thing is with bypass is fat absorption. So adding a little bit more of the good fats to each meal will just kind of keep you full for a little bit longer. So the keys might be looking at low glycemic index foods with enough protein and some good healthy fats in every meal. And just sort of the pace at which you eat your food will also depend on your what we call satiety or satisfaction from that meal. So generally it takes about 20 minutes for the body to register that there's food going in and to start off that cascade of different chemical processes that will lead to feeling satisfied, which is why we always say if you're feeling unsatisfied at the end of a meal, always wait for about 20 minutes and see if you need seconds or more food. So keep up the good work. Your weight loss is pretty fantastic and you must be feeling much better for that. But if you're in doubt around anything like this, I think it's important that you speak to your dietitian and just let them know your concerns. That way they can have a really good look at your food recall, like a map of what you've eaten in the last sort of 24 or 48 hours, just to get a picture. And they might be able to pinpoint some things from there or do some more testing on what's happening. The other area could be microbiome, the different bacteria in your gut, which will also contribute to helping you feel satisfied. So a way of helping that along is by including good fibre in your diet, as well as maybe probiotic for a period of time. But again, you can be quite specific with probiotics, so it's good to get some advice on which one you might need. Thank you. Thanks for your question. So Shirley is the next question. I've had my sleeve surgery in December 4 years ago. Just wondering what size meals people eat at the same time. Post-surgery, as myself, I often wonder if I'm eating too much or sometimes not enough. I know we're all different, especially 3 years down the track. I've had a fair amount of deficiencies, found another one last week, which now I have to get medication for, and it just seems to be never ending. I'm sorry to hear that. Further down the track, Shirley, is when you can see these deficiencies start to show up, and they will start to make impacts on your health. So that's why the 6 monthly blood tests are really, really important for life after surgery, because the first couple of years you can really almost find that the stores of those nutrients you had in the beginning will be getting you through, and then suddenly if the nutrition and the supplementation is not correct, you'll start to see problems after that. As far as the portion sizes and that sort of thing, you're always good to be guided by your I guess your own personal energy expenditure. So if you're very active, you're going to need more food. And I think a lot of people forget that and get caught up in this, I must have just half a cup of food and I must do this and I must take in these amount of calories. And that's a very blanket approach to something that is totally individual. So yes, we use guidelines, and in the first year after surgery, those guidelines are fairly stringent as far as setting up the portion sizes and the regularity of your food intake and making sure you take your protein first and that sort of thing. And down the track, you'll find that, yes, your hunger will return, but also you might be more metabolically active because you've lost all that weight and maybe gained some muscle. So there are ways of calculating exactly what your needs are, and that, again, dietitian or nutritionist can do that for you based on your metabolic kind of base and then the amount of energy you need per day. But yeah, as a rule of thumb, the portion plate and the portion bowl are sort of how we should be looking at managing our meals for the rest of our days. And then different days, you'll feel different sensations around hunger or not hunger, or not feeling very hungry. And that's also very dependent, particularly in women. And generally, cyclically, we have different energy demands as different things are happening in our bodies. So to say that every day we should take in, 800 calories or 1,000 calories as an example, it does fluctuate and it depends on what you're doing. So if you've got a day where you're exercising quite vigorously, you'll need more carbohydrates on that day to get you through that effort, and protein for recovery. And on a day where you're not as active, you probably wouldn't need as many carbs. So it is an art of getting to understand how you feel and thinking about what you're doing on any given day and kind of letting your diet speak to that. But yeah, if you need, and I think it's a really good thing when you are further down the track, is to remember that things do change, and it's always good to get support and create a long-term relationship with someone who can guide you along the way as well, and also through different life parts of the life cycle. So men and women have different stages we all go through, and hormonally, and I guess our physical demands change over time as well, depending on our situation. So it's always good to reassess throughout your life as things go along. And that's not only for weight loss surgery patients, that should be for everybody. So thank you. So the next question's from Marina. She's had her surgery a week ago, so I hope you're recovering well. And we hear this a little bit, struggling to drink enough, probably managing a litre a day, having protein milk for breakfast and soups for lunch and dinner without any problems. But water with or without anything is a struggle. Is there anything we can do or tricks that we can use to get more water in? I do hear of this a bit, and I have heard that if you can put something in the water that will break the surface tension, it sometimes will just sit a little bit better. A lot of patients have mentioned that the Fiji water, I think it's more alkaline, obviously has more minerals in it, being from where it's come from. So you could try those kind of things. Some people put just a dash of some kind of cordial or maybe some fruit juice, like a lime juice or lemon juice, something like that, just to break that surface tension and help the body to absorb it. The other thing to look at when you feel like water's not sitting well or being absorbed. So two things you'll find is that it makes you feel too full, or you'll also find that if you drink a litre of water, you feel like you excrete straight away a litre of water. So that can mean that your cells don't have the right electrolyte balance to actually take that water on board. So the two electrolytes that contribute to water or hydration are sodium and potassium. So looking at your levels of sodium and potassium, that's when they're in balance, they create almost like a magnetic force. So water will go in, and actually if sodium and potassium are in balance, they'll allow that water to hydrate you. When that's out of balance, you'll find that water will go straight through. So that's why after vigorous exercise and that sort of thing, for rehydration, we look at maintaining electrolyte balance. There's plenty of different solutions for that on the market, and that might be something that you just add a tiny bit of, just like a dilute amount during the day, just to see if that makes any difference. Don't overdo it. Don't drink every glass of water with electrolytes in it, because you'll end up going the other direction and you'll have too many. But the biggest contributor to re-hospitalisation after surgery is dehydration. So if you really are having trouble, again, make sure you see someone or discuss it with your surgeon or dietitian as soon as you can. Thank you. So then we have Taz, who's got a couple of things. 2 years post-sleeve and very happy with the results, but struggling at the moment. Not enough fibre in my diet, and I've bought the BN fibre to mix in my drinks. To get the maximum effect, what is the best time of day to take it? So the fibre is something that it doesn't really matter when you take it as far as the time of day. We usually just recommend that fibre's not taken with any medicinal supplements, medicines or drugs, and even just as a precautionary measure, I wouldn't take them with your multi. So if you're doing your multi at breakfast time, you could maybe sip on your water with fibre in it throughout the rest of the afternoon, and then take your multi again at night. It just depends on your if you have any other drugs that you need to take for other conditions, just always ask about that. But as far as it goes, there's no real best time for fibre. Every time's a good time for fibre, if you ask me. It's got so many functions in that it also keeps you feeling full, but it feeds your microbiome and helps you to establish a really good base of bacteria in your gut, which protects your immunity, keeps your digestion moving, also has effects on cholesterol. So fibre acts like a magnet for excess cholesterol and will draw it out of the body instead of recycling it up to the liver. So yeah, also when you're taking a fibre supplement, always increase your fibre quite gently. If you're going to take the BN fibre, I usually recommend you start with 1 scoop and just see how that makes you feel. That's 5 grams. So it depends on the rest of your daily intake through fruit and vegetables and other sources that are rich in fibre. But if you're looking for, say, 30 or 40 grams of fibre each day, maybe 20 of that could come from that supplemental fibre. So you'd slowly increase that intake over the next probably 2 weeks and see how you're feeling. And you sometimes will get a bit of, you'll feel fuller, but you can also feel a bit bloated if you put quite a bit of fibre in, because you're killing off yucky bacteria and changing your whole microbiome of your gut, which is a positive thing, but it should be done in stages. And you've got 2 questions. The second part is, I'm also suffering from hypoglycemia, down to 3.2 at some stages, worse when I'm on night shifts. So sometimes I think it may be too many carbs, and other times I can't feel a cause. So hypoglycemia is something that will come about with dysregulated blood glucose levels. So it depends on whether you had like a type 2 diabetes picture before surgery, I'm not sure. But generally it can be that you're leaving too much of a gap in between your meals. And of course, if you're working night shift, your body's really working hard. So generally, if you're awake all through the night when you'd normally be resting, you'll probably find that things are a bit out of kilter. But yeah, also looking at how you're keeping your blood sugars regulated. So the protein is a big key to blood sugar regulation, and also the low glycemic carbohydrates. So have a look on the internet. It's very easy to find a glycemic index chart. And that way you'll kind of look at foods that would really support that slow burning energy. And you can have those on hand in your night shift as well. So things like those little protein balls that you can make, or slow burning carbs like vegetables and things that have less of that sugary hit rather than and lots of fibre. So I'll post a list in the group. It might be a good thing to do, just so that you're all looking at what foods will give you a sort of slow and sustained blood sugar level, rather than these big peaks and troughs from refined carbohydrates like breads and rices and that sort of thing. So it's like putting in a big log. A low glycemic index food is like putting in a large log on a fire. It'll be a beautiful, long burning, warm, glowing, rather than a big flare up from a piece of newspaper. So that's the way you can look at it when you're thinking about, you know, refined carbohydrates like rice and bread and that sort of thing. They're like chucking newspaper on the fire. They're a big hit, but they're not sustained. So I hope that helps you too. The next question is from Trudy, who had her sleeve on in February this year. So still early days, but my burning question is, why am I hungry all the time? Prior to surgery, I was able to sustain myself from breakfast to lunch and then to dinner with minimal to no snacking, but now I feel like I need 6 smaller meals to sustain me, which is absolutely fine and probably better for you. And perhaps before surgery, how big were your breakfasts and your lunches that they would sustain you? So yes, the surgery should leave you feeling like you are not so hungry, and especially initially. But yeah, generally I think that kind of it's what you're geared for now is smaller meals more regularly right throughout the day, which is quite a healthy way to eat, if you ask me. There's lots of talk about intermittent fasting and all that sort of stuff, and yes, they have their place, but I think directly after surgery like yours, to meet your energy, protein and your nutritional needs, you will need very small meals quite regularly. So if you're only putting in half a cup of food now, where you used to put in maybe anywhere up to 2 or 3 cups at a time, of course that's going to, it'll be utilised more quickly. It's more what you put in than how much as well, and how satisfying that will be. So looking at, again, high protein with some good fats, and also, some bulk. So it's going to keep you full for a little bit longer. I hope that answers your question. So snacks, we usually recommend 3 meals and 3 snacks to get you through the day. So there's your 6 meals, which will be fine. The glycemic index foods, I'll stick in the group because it's coming up quite regularly, and I think that'd be a good thing for everybody. So I hope that helps you, Trudy. If I haven't answered your question in total, or you've got another question from my answer, just pop it in the group and I'll get back to it and we can discuss it. So the last question is from Kylie. Hi, I'm 10 months post-sleeve, lost 36 kilos, which brings my weight a little bit lower than it ideally should be. How do I stop losing more weight and maintain where I am currently? Which is a fair question and probably one you never thought you'd have to worry about. So once we get to that bottom end of where our goal weight is, it's also asking the question if that is the goal weight. Are you happy there? It's also a question of that composition of that weight. So is it a healthy 70 kilos, as an example, strong physique, or is it 70 kilos without much muscle and still looking for a bit more tone and some strength? So that depends on individual wants and preferences. But once you do get to that point where you are trying to maintain your weight, you're right, you've got limited room, and you'll need to make sure your caloric expenditure is in balance. So looking at also if you're losing weight and you don't want to be, you need to be increasing your calories. And the way to do that without taking up much more room is with healthy fats. So looking at nuts and seeds, like compact forms of high energy foods, which you never thought you'd have to think about. So dried fruit is good. There goes my dog. She can open the door. And I'll just shut it. 2 dogs. And high energy foods like healthy fats. So looking at nuts and seeds. Dried fruit is compact. All the water's taken out of it, so it's not taking up much room. So things that athletes use also are a good example, like they pack in lots of calories with compact forms like dried fruit, nuts, seeds. If it's really extreme and you find you're losing weight and it's getting to the point where it's uncomfortable for you, you're not happy, of course, look for a different meal plan. Talk to your dietitian about ways you can beef up that caloric intake in a healthy way. So some people who are at the end of their weight loss and feel like they need to increase their calories to either sustain their weight or add a bit more back on, it's very easy to turn to junk foods that aren't so supportive for your health. So it's looking at options that are health giving and also going to contribute to a full kind of day's caloric intake. A lot of the time too, when you get to that end stage where your weight is where you want it to be, you're feeling better, you're more active incidentally, so you'll need a bit more food as a result. But yeah, smart ways of getting those different amounts of nutrition and calories in is quite a balance sometimes as well. So I'll just check the questions. Karen's here again. Thanks for turning up. And Sue Reed, welcome again. So it's great to have you here. I'll also add a list of the glycemic index foods. If you've got any more questions from what we've talked about today, just pop them in the comments again and I'll come back and have a look. You can also email me anything that is a bit more complex, or I can always point you in the direction of good bariatric dietitians and help you as much as we can within reason in this kind of forum. So I hope you found the information to be helpful, and happy Mother's Day, mums, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. See ya.